Welcome to the Nerd Cave News. I am one of your hosts, Zach Dykes, joined along with a man that has tended the Duchess of Windsor, the Queen of Switzerland, and yours truly. It's the best butler in the fiefdom. It's Fancy Bottom Satchel Pants.
Fancy Bottom Satchel Pants.
Yep.
Very creative. Very creative. And it feels very original. So... Was that also done by your lovely wife?
That was done by me.
Oh,
yeah.
Plot twist.
Oh, plot twist. Yes, Fancy Bottom
Kudos
Satchel
to
Pants.
you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to have you here, Fancy Bottom, because this episode is brought to you by our wonderful patrons. You can become part of the ship, part of the exclusive crew by going over to patreon.com/nerdcave, just like our wonderful crew members, the first mate, Brandon Hicks, our helmsman, the conductor, our gunners, Daniel Sanford, Rushing Waters Yoga, Marilyn James, Brittany, the Grady B. Harrison, and our deckhand, Martin Sager. This is the Nerd Cave News, where each and every week we run you through all the video game news that you need to know. You can watch us live over on twitch.tv/nerdcave network on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central Time, or you can watch the show later over on youtube.com/nerdcave network and check us out on podcasts around the globe. On this episode, we're going to be talking about PlayStation versus Xbox, the knockdown drag out, all those things, all those crazy things going on in the courts over this acquisition of Activision Blizzard. But first, let's talk about our August game club game, God of War 2018, out on PlayStation 4, PS5, and the PC. Derek,
yes,
it's good to be back in it. You know what I mean?
It's good to be playing the GOAT. You know what I mean? Like, it's good to hear, boy.
Yeah, last night I was playing on the couch. I brought the PS5 out in the living room, and it was like the beginning is like pretty like hardcore. It's like, hey, this person's dead, and then you're like showing your kid how to like hunt, and then he's having to kill a deer, and it's like then he's having to kill people, and it's like all these different things. And Amy's like, man, this is dark.
And it sets the tone for the what the rest of the game is, because I've made it to, you know, I made it a good chunk into. I made, you know, I had the first boss fight, got to the, you know, the big lake area, and you know, I'm now in I don't know how much we, because it's Norse mythology, so you got the 9 realms. So I'm now in Alfheim. That's where I ended before I got on here to talk to old Zacharoo. It's very like an emotional trip from the beginning, and like Kratos' somberness, and like, yes, Atreus is annoying, and I forget like how uppity he acts at the very beginning of the game, because there's a part later in it where he gets like very high and mighty, but like he acts very uppity in the beginning part of the game. I'm like, child, I'm gonna knock you out. I'm gonna take this axe handle and knock you out, boy. Like, boy. And like, I forget how, like, there are several times where he's just like Atreus just keeps on rambling and rambling. He's like, boy, and he's like, sorry.
Yeah, like I forgot like how many moments, especially in the beginning, where there were these. It would be like different things, like where a normal human being would console this child. Yeah. And Kratos like reaches out and then he just stops. He's like, yeah, that's not my thing. And then just like keeps going.
And then like there's another part, at least in what I played, like where he tries to do it again and he does. I'm like, just console your son.
Yeah.
And you got to remember this, because Kratos, like from the original trilogy, he accidentally, spoilers, even though the game's like 2 decades old at this point, he kills his family because Ares tricked him into doing it. And so he never got a chance to like reclaim that. He's always been angry. He's only known rage and revenge. So he has to relearn, you know, it's like, now I forget, Genkai, I'm old, Yusuke. You know, like Kratos is old. It's been a minute since he's had to actually like be a father, because he let his wife do all that. Yeah. You know, like train him or like show him like certain things, like educate him. Kratos is like, I'm gonna train you like the old school, like back in the 50s and 60s. Well, maybe way before that. When in the roles back in the day, but and he's trying to now establish like a deeper relationship with his son, but he's like hard at that, especially like when certain things happen at the beginning. He's like, I can't tell him my past. I can't tell him what I am. And he's trying to keep it's like almost he's a superhero, and he's trying to live that double life. He's like, I want to protect him from this. I want him to try and be as normal as possible, but at the same time, stuff's happening to where that's going to get compromised. And we see early on they meet a person who points that out as like, eventually they're going to find out, and you don't know how they're going to take it because you've kept it from them.
Yeah, exactly. It's better to be honest up front and, take it the way it comes instead of like it being found out later when it's, not from you, that sort of deal. But the gameplay, like the more I play, the more it's like, man, this just feels right. Having put in so much time into this game, like my muscle memory's coming back. I'm like, oh yeah, and I can do this and I can do that. And I can but because both of us are playing on New Game Plus. So I started last night and I was like, okay, I had to transfer it over. I had to do all this rigmarole and everything. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do New Game Plus. And instead of reading what the screen says, Derek, instead of reading what the screen says, and Dan can, say that I never read anything that pops up on the screen, because I don't, guys. I just like, I'm assuming it's going to do what I'm assuming it's going to do. So I start and I'm like, okay, well, it's telling me to override a file. I need to pick the earliest one to, create my New Game Plus. So I don't overwrite, my last file while I'm about to beat the
Valkyrie Queen.
The Valkyrie Queen. I'm literally like in that place. I was like, I don't want to delete any of that. So the game starts and everything, and I'm like, what is this armor? I was like, I don't remember this armor.
Oh no.
And then I get going, and then like I pause the game, and I'm like, why do I have nothing? I literally have nothing at all. And I picked, to have like all the enemies start at level 5, just to have a challenge.
No. Oh no.
So we get to the first Draugr, and like I come in, I'm like, yeah.
He gives you hands, doesn't he?
And I, like one hit dead, just boom, I'm dead. Like doesn't even like I am laid on the floor. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm just rusty. Right. So I try again.
Shield counter.
I try again, dead in one hit. I like 3 times, and I'm like, okay, I don't know where any of my gear is, where any of my upgrades, any of my skills, nothing. So I look and I go back, and I went back and I read it. It's like, whatever file you're using, that's what, whatever gear, whatever you've unlocked, that's where you're going to start from. So I had picked from the very beginning when I had hardly anything to start my New Game Plus. And I was like, oh man, I was like, okay, what an idiot. So
put it on a hard difficulty, so it's like you really did yourself in.
Yeah, exactly. And Dan has to chime in. That is why you read everything. No, we don't read here. So I restarted it. I skipped everything like to get back to where I was fighting the Draugr, and then it was like exponentially easier because like I'm like level 8 and all that good stuff, and like I'm excited to see what the high, like I'm unlocking, like it's like some red thing. I can't even remember what it's called, but there's
slap skag or whatever,
something like that, and it's like the armor looks so awesome. I cannot wait to have that because I'm wearing the dwarven realm. I can't remember what they're called. It's where all the mist is. Like I'm wearing that armor set. Niflheim, like where you have to get all the mist and make the armor from that. Like that's what I'm wearing. Like I'm wearing one armor set of that right now. But it's like I'm pretty jacked up right here, like I'm just like yeet, and everybody's level 5, but I'm still just like clearing house. I'm like, this is so much better than getting one shot in.
I bet.
But I'm really enjoying it, and like the game looks amazing still. Like, even after all this time, the game still looks great. Yeah, I'm playing it on the PS5, but this is not an updated version. They put out a little patch for the
They have some
PS5.
features run better with the PS5, but not it. They didn't ever make it like a PS5 version.
Yeah, so I'm excited to get back in this world, just to have the story. Amy was watching me play a little bit. She was on TikTok as well last night, and just the story moment she was paying attention to and everything. And I was like, I kind of want to share this with you, because the last time I played this, and this is a huge game for me, not just because I love this game, but when I played God of War the last time is when I stopped doing the nerd cave. When I stopped the nerd cave the first time.
Yeah.
So this was a huge, this was a huge thing for me going through God of War. It was really working through some issues on my end as well. So now being able to go through God of War on the other side of those issues, like, it's
say, well, you've been a changed man.
Yeah, been a changed man and everything. So I'm really looking forward to getting more and more into it. And guys, we want to hear your stories of craziness in God of War as well. So, yeah.
I was going to ask one question. What was it? Oh my gosh. Now of course, now I'm thinking about it, I can't remember. Cuz we talked about the feel. The one cut camera is still just buttery smooth, and it's like you don't even notice that you just simultaneously go in and out of cutscenes until the camera like zooms in on like an actual cutscene of it, and then zooms back out. But it's like just doesn't end, and like there were times where I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta fight now.
yeah, exactly. Like, it feels so good. It doesn't take you out of the action. It doesn't take you out of the storytelling, and just the voice acting, the acting in general, like, everything is done so well in this game.
Yep.
Like, there's a part where you're chasing Atreus through like these caverns things. You're chasing like after a boar, and he gets ahead of you, and like you can actually feel that panic that Kratos is feeling, that like he's out of your line of sight there. It's like I felt that last night, and it was like, man, this game is just so good.
Yes. Yep.
So guys, if you're not playing it yet, get on it. Daggone it. Dan says, I need to finish Last of Us, then I'll hop on God of War 4. No, you need to do it now.
Boy.
And speaking of God of War, just a real quick update. God of War Ragnarok is coming out in 82 days, 5 hours, and 28 minutes, guys. So make sure you can play through the first one or the fourth one, whatever you want to say. The first one of this trilogy.
Yeah. Or of this new series, because we don't know how long
if
this series is going to go.
Yeah.
Because Core Battlelog is hinted this could be 2 games. It could be 3. We don't know. It just depends on how we want to wrap up this story.
I'm really curious if they make, because there's some timey-wimey stuff going on here. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to just put this out here. I think that Kratos is actually Tyr. That's who I think it is.
We'll talk off air because I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, that's neither here nor there. That is our August and September Game Club game. So join us. It's on PlayStation 4, PS5, and PC. God of War 2018. But we've got some discussing to do, as Ricky Ricardo used to say on I Love Lucy. Lucy, got some explaining to do. First off, Microsoft news. Yeah, we're actually doing a Microsoft segment. Microsoft claps back at Sony and accuses its competitor of paying developers to not bring their titles to the Game Pass.
So, as regulatory bodies in countries across the world, like Brazil, examine the deal, like they're talking about Xbox acquiring Activision Blizzard, Sony is trying to make its case that this deal would be anti-competitive and could, quote, influence users' console of choice, end quote. In response, Microsoft vehemently disagrees. It should be no surprise, and has even gone further to accuse Sony of paying premiums to developers for them to not put their games on Xbox Game Pass. Quote, indeed, Microsoft's ability to continue expanding Game Pass has been obstructed by Sony's desire to inhibit such growth. Sony pays for blocking rights to prevent developers from adding content to Game Pass and other competing subscription services. Elsewhere, Microsoft also pointed out Sony's reliance on exclusivity in games. Quote, considering that exclusivity strategies have been at the core of Sony's strategy to strengthen its presence in the game industry and that Sony is a leader in the distribution of digital games, Sony's concern with possible exclusivity of Activision's content is incoherent, to say the least. The idea that Sony would pay developers a premium for exclusivity or even just more control over content is not at all new, and has been something we've known about since court documents released between Epic versus Apple. So, I look at this and be like, at first glance, you can be like, oh, it's just sour grapes because Sony has been kicking their butt since the PS4. At the same time, Sony comes off as a little snobbish. If these reports are true, which you can kind of see, like, Sony doesn't care to share it, so you can kind of see that, you can kind of take that as like, oh, well, we kind of do deals under the table. You know, it's just like, I know it's a little bit apples to oranges, but it's like, oh, saying that colleges don't pay athletes to come to their schools over another one. You know? Like, when it happens under the table all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if Sony did this. But it is a little bit like tongue in cheek to say that, oh, well, Activision Blizzard games being exclusive to this would kill our competitive spirit. I'm like, you have Forspoken. Like, how many of the Square Enix games have you taken, you know, and put it on your platform? Like, Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 is still not on Xbox. And on the box art, when it first came out, it's like exclusive to PlayStation till at least 2023.
Yeah, definitely.
No. When did it come out? 2020? Till at least, you know, for at least a year from when it originally launched on PlayStation 4. And it's like, how can you say that when you're doing the exact same thing and have been doing it longer than Xbox?
Yeah, like, this is my thing. Sony is trying to slow down what Xbox is doing here because they see that it actually is making a difference. They're seeing that people are really, really liking this Game Pass thing, to even go to the point where they have made their own version of it with the PlayStation Plus new version of it. Yeah. But they're using what they have available, and that is capital. They're using their money to do the talking and to either get exclusives on their console while pointing the finger saying, well, this is bad for us. It's like, well, this is also, you know, not great for anyone else. But right. I look at it this way.
The meme of Spider-Man pointing to each other.
Exactly. I look at it this way. Does this help gamers? No. Yeah. This does not help gamers. I love PlayStation. Me and Derek, we're Sony ponies. Let's just be honest. We're Sony ponies.
I'm not going to hide that fact.
But this does not help gamers. This does not help our pocketbook. This does not give us anything. And this is not in the best interest of us, but it is the best interest of PlayStation. They want to be the place to play. They want to sell their consoles. They're not about any of these other things. And I think that's really important for us to understand. When they're doing these things, it's for their own good. It is not for our good.
Yeah, no. And at the end of the day, like, yes, we have to remember they are a business. Like, while it is an entertainment business, it is a business, so they have to do the best thing for their investors, for their pocketbooks. Yep. I get that. At the same time, the consumers need to, you know, I don't want to say have a say, but they need to be, you know, happy about this as well. And like, people can say, like, even if it's from Game Pass, because I feel like Sony is intimidated by how good Game Pass has been.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, PlayStation, the Plus, what was the premium and what? Yeah. What
essential and all of that.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. The two tiers above the normal has been good. Like, they've been hitting on pretty good. Like, this month's like a bunch of the Yakuza games, Bug Snacks, Dead by Daylight. Like, those are all, like, they're getting pretty good to solid games in their lineup. But at the same time, how long is that going to last before that well runs dry? And Game Pass keeps hitting on all cylinders. And like, are they ever going to go to the day one route? Because Xbox has started doing that. And we saw like the power of Game Pass has started affecting one of their IPs. Like, yes, they didn't own the rights to MLB, but
Yeah.
Sony had the exclusive rights to like be the only ones to develop it. And MLB said, "Look, we see where money is. We see the power of Game Pass. We see people like the Switch, with them being able to travel on the go. We need you. Like, we'll still let you keep making it, but we need you to put it on our other platforms." And Sony was like, I guess we'll play nice, and we still don't know. I'd still like to know like the revenue split between like if Xbox and Nintendo, like how much money they get from MLB sales. But I don't know. It does seem very tongue in cheekish, like for Sony to basically like, we don't want you to do that. Well, but but what they're really saying is we want to be the only ones to do that to you.
Yeah, it's like you can't do that, but we can. Rules for thee, not for me.
Exactly. Do as I say, not as I do. And you also have to wonder is if it was like a smaller studio, right? Like, let's just say, like, let's swap the acquisitions for a minute, like the two big ones that happened around the same time. If Sony bought Activision, let's not even say Sony bought them. If Xbox bought Bungie and owned them, would Sony be making this much fuss over it? You know what I'm saying? Because it's one studio, Destiny, which, yeah, it doesn't do as well, but it's still an ongoing game. It still does solid numbers from time to time, and it is getting better. It is getting better. But now, would Sony care as much because is it the company or is it the revenue they're going to lose out on? Because Call of Duty, for better or for worse, I know we had our rant on it when they got acquired, still does killer numbers.
Yeah.
For Activision Blizzard. Overwatch does solid as well. And then, there's WoW and everything like that. So I wonder if it's just because of the revenue those few franchises bring in is why Sony's upset that they might go exclusive.
I think it's a lot of those things. I think it's also the mind share. When you think about those games, if it is tied to exclusively one console, the mind share goes to that.
Yeah.
But you also have to think about PlayStation's games. Like when you think of Uncharted, The Last of Us, God of War, Spider-Man, all of that is PlayStation. Now you're starting to see, Horizon. They're coming to PC, but it's much later. But it's like when you think of those, that's a PlayStation game.
Yeah,
that's what and they're afraid of that happening because Sony has staked their flag in first party games and exclusives. They're afraid of that power, that momentum swinging the other way. I'm going to just be honest with you. Let's look at chat real quick. Murdoch says, as a new Game Pass user, it has paid for itself for the most part. And he goes on to say, you have to deal with the ups and downs and the releases months roll by. Some months are fine. Others are a flunk. And then you could look at TV and versus games and how all of that is gone. It was a matter of time for this kind of subscription thing, but Game Pass is the best deal in gaming. 100%.
Yes. Hands down.
100%. And I want to jump down, Derek, and we can get back to the XCOM, the Gamescom stuff after these two, but this kind of flows here. To our next story, Microsoft says that it simply wouldn't be profitable to have Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox.
So, speaking in a document sent to Brazil's Administrative Council for Economic Defense regarding the acquisition, Microsoft suggested that PlayStation should not have any concerns about Call of Duty not appearing on its consoles, as it has no plans to make the franchise an Xbox exclusive. Quote, regardless of how unsurprising Sony's criticism of content exclusivity is, given that PlayStation's entire strategy has been centered on exclusivity for over the years, the reality is that the strategy of retaining Activision Blizzard's games by not distributing them in rival console shops would simply not be profitable for Microsoft. Such a strategy would be profitable only if Activision Blizzard's games were able to attract a sufficient large number of gamers to the Xbox console ecosystem, and if Microsoft could earn enough revenue from game sales to offset the losses from not distributing such games on rival consoles. As if that weren't enough, exclusivity strategies still result in title-specific costs, it claims, giving further information that has been redacted from the document, likely due to confidentiality. Such costs added to the lost sales estimated above mean that Microsoft would not be able to offset the losses by earning higher revenues in the Xbox ecosystem as a result of implementing exclusivity. So a lot of word jargon, but basically
Mhm.
the nitty gritty of it is they don't want they don't see a thing for it right now to be exclusive. Now, here's my thing, because going back to Call of Duty on the 360 days, while it wasn't exclusive, Xbox had a 30 like a was it like a 30-day or like a couple month
Mhm.
thing for the maps that came out
Yeah,
after
map
launch
hacks.
that would come to Xbox first. So they did a deal in some regard. It just wasn't only on their consoles like it did come to PlayStation, but that I
Mhm.
would argue that did influence gamers. Now again, with profitability, who knows? Like with map packs, it's, you know, like DLC is also a tricky thing. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like how much extra revenue does it need to bring in? But it definitely influenced people to buy COD on Xbox over
Oh yeah,
PlayStation back in those
100%.
days. And then, you know, once the PlayStation 4 came out, that kind of mindshare swapped and everyone got it on PS4. Um, but I also want to throw this out here too. I think they're putting this out here to quell gamers and be like, no, it's still going to be on everything, because we saw with Bethesda, like what was out of our mouths when Xbox bought Bethesda. It's like, oh, Starfield won't be exclusive. Like the stuff after it
Mhm.
might be, but Starfield, nah, it'll be on multiple consoles. And then they came out like a year later and was like, nope, it's only going to be on Xbox.
Yep.
Forget this. I think now Bethesda's a different animal too, and they didn't spend that much on them. But with how much money you spent buying a bigger company as Activision Blizzard, I think right now it would behoove you not to make games exclusive. Like maybe some of the smaller ones, but like the big franchises like Overwatch 2 and Modern Warfare 2 that's coming out this year. I think it's in their best interest to recoup as much of the spending cost as possible, and then once they get in a comfortable situation where they made their money back, they're like, all right, now we can start playing around with this. Like, can we throw Overwatch on Xbox and not everywhere else?
Yeah, and I think, you know, with Microsoft, they early on, and I think this is why they didn't do this with a lot of their third party stuff right off the bat. They got burned with the Tomb Raider exclusive back in the day.
Yes.
And that was kind of the first third party game we saw go exclusive, and it turned out poorly.
Yeah.
And I think that
The
set a
game
lot
was
of
great. It just
Mhm.
didn't do great sales wise.
And I think that mind share was like, oh, this was a bad
Yeah.
decision. We shouldn't do this ever again. And
Yep.
then you saw that with a lot of their decisions. That being said, Sony has done an awesome job with it. And I think now they're kind of pointing all of this. It's like, it wouldn't make sense for us to do this because it's cutting off half the market, which brings us to our next point. Xbox One sold less than half of the PlayStation 4 in its life cycle, court documents reveal.
A rough translation of the court papers regarding the sales figures reads, Sony has surpassed Microsoft in terms of console sales and install base, having sold more than twice as many than Xbox in the last generation. Given that Sony has recently confirmed that PS4 has sold 117.2 million units worldwide, although it's no longer going to release PS4 figures going forward, then we can assume that the Xbox One moved around 58.5 million units during its lifetime, which the Xbox One was a good, like, after they got rid of the initial like bad pre-marketing strategy to try and move consoles, like after it was actually a solid console.
Yeah.
And Phil Spencer came and righted that ship and made it. I mean, that's where back compat came back in full swing. Game Pass started on that. So by the end, it was actually a viable console. But to think that it estimated, because after a while Xbox stopped reporting stopped reporting their numbers way into that life cycle.
Oh yeah,
but
definitely.
to think that it only estimated less than 60 million units is rough. Like it, especially for how much goodwill that now maybe most of those sales came in after Phil Spencer made all those good, like, solid moves and better changes and better consumer moves for gamers.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, you got to wonder, it's like, oof, that's like not. I forget how many the Wii U sold, but it's like, man, you don't want to get anywhere near Wii U territory, man.
Wii U sold at like under 12 million, if I remember right.
Okay, never mind. Yeah, it did way better than that.
yeah, definitely. Well, and looking at these numbers, it kind of sets you up to this place, and Dan even mentions this. It just doesn't make sense for independent studios to go exclusive, and it doesn't, but this is talking about, Xbox owning Activision Blizzard and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense to sell a game to only a small market. Okay.
Yeah.
And follow me on this. We see less than 60 million. It might be over 60 million. Let's just say they hit 75 million, Derek. Okay.
Yeah.
That's still way less than 117 million. Add those two together. That's a lot. That would be a lot of consoles that you are not reaching. And then you really understand, because I remember when Game Pass was announced, it was like, okay, it's going to be day one, which was absolutely crazy of all first party games. And then it was like, we're also bringing our games to PC. And when that was announced, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Why are Xbox games being brought to PC? I don't like that. It made me mad. But looking at it now, it's like looking at this install base, it's small. But if you are able to bring it to PC players, which is a vast quantity of people.
I mean, heck, that only got bigger over when you couldn't find consoles during the pandemic. And people were like, let me build a PC. Like, that only grew more exponential. So it's like that money they were printing money at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, we are able to increase our install base exponentially by including PCs through the Game Pass. And now it's like, okay, we have got the game Call of Duty. We're about to own that game that is always at the top of NPD numbers. It doesn't matter when it is. It could be a year after it releases, and the second game came out after that. It's still in the top NPD. And then we've got Warzone on top of that. It would make no absolute sense for us to say we're not going to service PlayStation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like Phil Spencer is not an idiot. He understands.
And it kind of goes like it's we're kind of going away from the article here, what I'm about to bring up, but it kind of correlates into the future that they're wanting to bring too. Microsoft has been said for the last several years that, or at least since we've started the show, they're trying to get away from hardware. Like, they don't want to nix hardware altogether. They said that's still an important thing, but they want to become just known for their content rather than the hardware. Because they want their stuff to go everywhere. They don't care as long as I think that they're the first ones to realize hey, we don't care if you can play this game on the Nintendo Switch. As long as it makes us money, that's all that matters. And that's what they're going for. And I think Sony, they still have this old school mentality of exclusive matter, which they do. Their exclusives have been killing it because they make great quality games. At the same time, I think now you're starting to see them play catch up and be like, oh, PC really does its numbers. And we reported on it a few months ago, where one of the suggestion boxes was from our development teams, what do you want us to help you with? And it's put our games on PC. We want to make more money from this. Yes, it's great for launch day, but after that, we don't make hardly any money after this. And it's now if we see these games like Spider, we're going to talk about it in the PlayStation news. Spider-Man was sold extremely well. It just launched this past Friday on PC, and it already vaulted up to number 2 in PlayStation games that made it to PC. So right behind God of War. So Sony's starting to see. That's why they bought a PC port company as part of their umbrella. That's why they're amping up and beefing up more PC ports. Uncharted Legacy of Thieves still is going to hit this year to PC. So they're trying to play catch up, but now it's all right, what else are you going to do? Are you going to branch out and release a little bit of Control if you want more money, or are you just going to stay firm and be that grumpy old man that's set in his ways?
Yeah, because, look at Xbox. You've got the xCloud, where you can play on your phone. They've got it where you can play on Samsung TVs, all of these things. And it's they're not afraid. You can play on PC, you can cross-play all of these things with Game Pass. And it matters. It matters. I've got Game Pass for PC. I don't even play on my Xbox One. Like, I'm not going to buy the new Xbox S or X. That's just not what I want. I just don't like, I've got a PC. I'll just do it there.
Yeah, I'm about
So
to say it's arguably probably more powerful than an X anyway.
yeah, exactly. So they are understanding that part of it, that they're moving forward on this, and they also understand they've got to make money to stay relevant. They've got to make money to keep making deals like this Activision Blizzard. And I think that's why they're pointing out, it's like, this makes no sense for us. We've gotten burned in the past for doing an exclusive, and we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to cut off half of the market just to make a point. And Phil Spencer, like, so many times, he champions PlayStation. Like, we talked about it a few weeks ago. The most, the game that he's looking forward to the most playing is God of War Ragnarok. You know what I mean? Like, he is a gamer. So, that all being said, I don't think we're going to see them take Call of Duty and make it exclusive. I don't think we're going to see that. Because, it just doesn't make financial sense.
If it was a niche thing that people love to play, but it wasn't very profitable, I could see it doing that. But as much money as that game prints year in and year out, they can't afford to do that, because they would immediately lose production cost on that game by cutting off half the market.
Yeah, because like, if it was, like you said, a niche thing, it would cost less to not make it where it was, cross-platform. Like, the development time would be shorter because they wouldn't have to work on 2 different versions of the game. So, there it is, guys. That's what we think. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. But let's move on. We got 2 more little bits of Xbox news for you. Xbox announces Gamescom plans, including a 6-hour live stream.
And I had to reread this because I thought, man, they're gonna do a 6-hour conference. There's no way. And it's like, it's a live stream. I'm like, okay, so like a Nintendo Treehouse thing. All right, that makes better sense. The Xbox booth at Gamescom live stream is a 6-hour event that will take place on Thursday, August 25th, a week from today, from 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern, and 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central. The live stream will feature developer interviews as well as gameplay, but Xbox is indicating that there will be new announcements as part of their stream. The current yet incomplete list includes Microsoft Flight Simulator, Gunfire Reborn, Sea of Thieves, Lies of P, High on Life, Grounded, Pentiment, A Plague Tale Requiem, Minecraft Legends, Planet of Lana, and Age of Empires 4. The Xbox booth itself will let attendees go hands-on with some of the latest games and updates from Xbox Game Studios, alongside demos of upcoming games like A Plague Tale Requiem and Pentiment. It will also showcase a demo of the new Xbox app on the latest 2022 Samsung Smart TV. Xbox is also holding a virtual meet and greet with game creators from Sea of Thieves and Park Beyond for those who are unable to attend. These meet and greets will let gamers chat directly with game creators about their games and their experience in the industry. You'll need to apply to be a part of these. To enter for a chance to win, reads Xbox's website, register as an Xbox FanFest fan at xbox.com/fanfest and opt in for the meet and greet of your choice. So, glad we're getting details out there. I think because the pandemic, has affected a lot of like game development or whatnot, I've seen like Jeff Keighley's like, got out in front of the Summer Game Fest thing and was like, look, don't expect any blockbuster reveals. It's mostly going to be games you already know. And like maybe some games that were rumored or leaked but never was officially announced, like you'll see that, but we're not going to announce Half-Life 3 at this thing, you know what I mean, like anything earth-shattering. And Xbox is, I think, also tempering expectations by being like, hey, we're not going to show Gear 6 or like whatever it is, you know what I mean, like I think
Gear 6.
I know, like, and I had to think about that. I thought about it while we were talking about Xbox, and talking about like the history from Xbox One through like how it's gone. It's like, man, Gears 5 was not that long ago, but it feels so long. I'm like, I'm ready for the next Gears of War.
Gears 5 was like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Let me look. Gears 5.
I don't consider it that long ago to be, but considering like the gap between Horizon 1 and 2 and God of War 1 and 2,
2019.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a
So
while.
yeah, it's 3 years old. So it has been a while, but not too long in my eyes. But yeah, it's like I'm ready for the next Gears. Like we got Halo last year, and it's like now I need Gears.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm ready for Gears. Gears 5 is one of the best, especially after Gears 4. Like it redeemed it for me for sure.
Right.
For me, you know, like again, nothing really new here. Like we're not gonna, you know, like you said, we're not gonna see anything big. Um, like I know some people want to see more of these games and all of that. Like
Yeah.
a Plague Tale Requiem is coming out like in a few months, October.
Yeah.
I don't want to see anything from this game. I don't want to see
Yeah.
another thing
They
from it.
just put out a 5-minute gameplay trailer today, and I haven't watched it yet. But I'm just like, y'all are gonna ruin me on this game.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to see anything. I want to go in with just the trailer that y'all put out like a few months ago. That's all I want.
Back at your E3.
Yeah, that's all I want. I don't want to watch anything else because, like, I'm sold on the game. I played the first one. Like, I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. And random question: do you think because of how hard they're pushing this game, like I know we've seen third-party deals in the past, but do you think that they might buy a Sobo if
I could see
Requiem
it.
does well?
I could see it. Like, if it does well enough, I could see them jumping into it. 100%. 100%.
Because that marketing for that game lately has been insane, and it's like, are
Yeah.
y'all just pushing? Because I mean, they had way back in the Xbox One days. Obviously, they didn't buy CD Projekt Red, but they campaigned for The Witcher 3 hard with their marketing. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I could see it. I definitely could. 100%.
we'll see. But
Yeah, Murdoch, we'll get to your question right after this last bit of Xbox news. Well, not really Xbox news, but it says rant box. Are you wanting to rant on this? Is that what?
yes, because I am so tired of hearing this.
Okay. So Derek's going to rant on this one. So I'm going to team up here. Beyond Good and Evil 2 is alive, but is still at least a few years away.
Why do we need to care? Like because there was a thing, because I know we didn't have a show last week, but one of my thing I was actually going to include this in last week's. It was the only carryover from last week's doc, because it's like, oh, they just now hired a narrative lead or like a narrative director, or a story writer, and I'm like, this game has been. You have shown CG trailers of this game. You have talked about it constantly, year in and year out. It's been in and out of development, development purgatory. Like the director left, that was Michel Ancel. He left to do other things because he got tired of being left at the altar with this game. And it's like, why? I almost feel like Ubisoft lost the bet, and it's like, well, we have to put this game out, so we have to make it serious and seem like a real thing. Why are you dragging your feet on this? Like, I understand some things have happened. I get it. Like, and you had to fight off acquisition, and it seems like you might have to fight off acquisition again. When one of the quick hits we'll get to. But I would just say at this point, kill the game, because Young and Evil 1 was a cult hit. I get it. And people were hyped when you announced the sequel. So I don't know if you feel an obligation to see this game through, but I don't think this game's going to be profitable. And it's like you've announced it, you've shown trailers, you've talked about it, you've had people do like play test or like development test on this game to help you with this. And you're still only at a point where you just recently hired a narrative writer, and now it's like you're coming out and saying, "Oh, it's still a few years away." How much is a few, Ubisoft? 5 years is a few. Like this game will be going in development longer than I feel like Last Guardian. And Last Guardian skipped a whole entire consoles. It was shown for PS. It was shown to be like, was it on PS2 at the end of PS2 life cycle or something like that? Was first teased. It skipped PS3, and it came out like mid to late PS4 life cycle. It took that long. Like, I don't know. Like, I just don't have any hope for this game anymore, and I wish Ubisoft would just axe it.
Yeah, for me, like, I don't care about this game whatsoever. Like, the reason why I harp on Skull and Bones so much is because of this as well. Beyond Good and Evil 2 falls in the same place as Skull and Bones to me.
Yeah.
Will Skull and Bones come out in November? I believe it when it's out. I will believe it when it's out, because Ubisoft has been so poor at getting games out. It's like Dreams or Last Guardian or Final Fantasy 15.
Dreams is PlayStation.
I know. I'm saying like these games that take forever to come out. Like none of these things, like if they were managed right, should go this way.
Yes.
Poor management is the whole reason these things are going this way. Have I ever made a game? No. But if I was a game developer, okay, if I was a game developer, just like I run a business, just like I ran a band and taught, if it was my job to do something, guess what, Derek? I'm going to do it, and I'm going to make sure everybody else that's working with me is going to be doing their job as well, because I ain't doing it alone. So that is my biggest thing here is people should be doing their job. They are not. They have not. Maybe now that they're, cleared people out of the way, whatever, it'll come to pass, but don't hold your breath, and, make sure to wipe.
Yeah.
The tears from your eyes. The tears from your eyes.
my thing is like, no matter if this game comes out, no matter how good it looks, I don't think it'll be profitable for them. I think that the investment, it'll just be like Dreams. Like Sony will try and force it down your throat because of and try to recoup the cost it spent. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's not a success. And I think this will be the same thing. Like the story could be the best story ever told in video game history. I don't think it'll be profitable for them, at least with the time and effort they put into this.
Yep. So before we get into the PlayStation news, I want to answer Murdoch's question. Why do we not have Half-Life 3? You want me to tell you why? Because Valve makes so much money doing nothing and making no games by running Steam that they never have to make another game ever. That's why you don't have Half-Life 3. You don't have another Portal. You don't have Team Fortress 3. You don't have a Dota 3. You don't have anything. Yeah. You just have Steam because they're making money hands over fist, and they don't have to do anything else. And Gabe Newell is not going to push the envelope. He is just going to continue to rake in the money, and he's done making games.
Well, you're going to see. He might be, but I know a few years ago, maybe it wasn't even last year, that he came out and says, "Oh yeah, Valve wants to make games again." I'm like, do you though? Do you?
There might be people within the company that wants to make games, but I don't think you're going to really ever see them make games like they used to. So that's why you're not going to see a Half-Life 3. Like, Half-Life you saw
Alex was good.
Yeah, you saw Half-Life Alyx because they were trying to push a peripheral.
Yeah.
And you got the Steam Deck. You're going to see peripherals and consoles, if you will, but you're not going to see games. You're not going to see anything in that realm ever again, like we saw from them for a long time, until maybe the guard changes. New leadership comes in, then you might see something. But until that happens, you're not going to see Half-Life 3, and it's kind of sad because I know a lot of people want that, but just not going to get it. It's not going to get it. Speaking of somebody that's not going to get it anyway, either Andrew Koji eyes lead role in Sony's Ghost of Tsushima movie.
Forgot that they announced they were doing a Ghost of Tsushima movie until I read this article, and I'm like, okay. I didn't know this was a thing, but good to know. I know Zach's going to be, cautiously optimistic. I shouldn't say excited. Yep. Like excited just that this is like more Ghost of Tsushima content. His game of the every year. But we'll see. Bullet Train and Snake Eyes actor Andrew Koji has told EW that he's got his eye on the role in the upcoming Ghost of Tsushima movie. It's not just any role, though. He set his sights on playing lead role Jin Sakai. Quote, "I'm going after Ghost of Tsushima. That's what I'm going to do. I would love that. I think I can do a really good Jin Sakai. I can bring my own spin to it." Koji just so happens to be a big gamer and has previously revealed that he completed Ratchet & Clank while promoting Snake Eyes' G.I. Joe Origins and later went on to tackle Ghost of Tsushima, something which he's been through twice already. Quote, "I've played the video game twice now. I was thinking about it because the adaptation has been on the horizon. All the team has been talking about it. It would have to stand by itself because the game's so good. Let that exist by itself, and the film should be something slightly different. That's the problem with those video game films." End quote. So, obviously, I haven't seen either Bullet Train or any of the G.I. Joe movies. Well, I think that
I watched the first one.
Say what now?
I watched the first one. It was crap.
Was that the one with Channing Tatum?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did see that one, but yeah, it was bad. But haven't seen Bullet Train. I heard that one was good though. But anyway, but we were talking about this before the show aired. It's like, why not just bring the guy who voiced Jin Sakai and did all his movements
and the
from
mocap, everything? Like, it makes no sense. I'm going to butcher his name 100%, and he's going to be at Pensacon February 24th and 26th of next year. Dasuki Suji, something like that.
Let me see his name. Hold on. Let me pull up.
I texted it to you.
Yeah, let me check that real quick. I can correct you here. Let's see.
Yeah, so
Daisuke Suji.
There you go. Daisuke Suji. There you go. You know, me and pronouncing Japanese names are great. Orochimaru. You know what I mean? Like, he's already done it. Like, he had to learn sword fighting. He had to do all of these things to be able to be Jin. Yeah. And it just makes no sense. Like, you know, no shade on this Andrew guy. I don't know you. I don't hate you. But you're not Jin Sakai. Like, you're just not him.
It could be worse. It could be Chris Pratt voicing Mario.
It could be. But it's like, okay, if the dude wants to play it, make him play it. You know, he's not built for it. What are you talking about? Like, he's the one that did it. Murdoch, like, what are you on? And he's not a great actor. Who are you talking about? This Andrew Koji dude? Like, is that who you're talking about? Because, like, he looks like he's very small. Are you talking about?
Yeah, Koji, the guy who wants to play Sakai in the movie.
Because I'm about to have to fight. I'm already feeling like I'm gonna have to fight Murdoch tonight. If he's over here talking bad about the dude who played him.
What worries me, and yes, it's just like, you know, when they adapt books to movies, right? It's not going to be the same page for page. They're always going to have, the directors are going to have their own vision and put their own spin on it. But it worries me when an actor says it's like, oh, I'm going to put my own spin on Jin Sakai. I'm like, what do you mean by that? Because if you're going to go like the MCU, like, I'm going to make him more humorous route, I'm like, nah, that ain't it, son. If you played that game is serious from the jump. Like, you don't need to make him humorous or like if you're going to make him more like action oriented and like not as stoic, okay, maybe I can get behind that a little bit. But if you're like, oh, I'm going to make him my own, like, I'm going to put Snake Eyes and Ghost of Tsushima, I'm like, no, dog, that's a no from me.
Murdoch, I don't know what I don't know if you still got vertigo going on or what, but I don't know. I don't know what you're seeing, but he's in A Man in High Castle. He did all of Ghost. Do you know that game that you played? That's acting as well. So anyway, before, I don't care if you're watching his live streams. We're gonna have to move on before I ban somebody tonight. I have to ban somebody.
Is it Murdoch or Brandon?
Brandon's on the ban button. On the ban button, but you know, you acting like Kabuto. You know how I feel about Kabuto over here. You know how I feel about Kabuto. He knows. Astro's Playroom developer says its next game will be the studio's biggest to date.
Hold on, let me find the article. I got lost in. Nicholas Doucet, the team's creative and studio director, touched base on the company's current setup, which includes rotating staff to experiment with new ideas and the possible inclusion in future projects. Quote, we have a current production and that's going fine, but we want to have another group for R&D, and we want enough in this group to explore as many areas that are interesting and to potentially start other projects. We always have this extra team on the side. Probably like 90% of the studio is on production, but there is this small pocket of people in the background that are already touching the technologies of tomorrow, or trying things with the technologies we have today, but taking them into a new direction. It's very vague, but, you know, they did Astro's Playroom like, it was a packed-in game with the PS5, but it was really well done. It showed off, it showcased what the PS5 and the DualSense controller could do very well. And it was a very nice, like, history lesson for the PlayStation of the, you know, through the ages.
Yep.
And that, then they got bought by PlayStation, or like they fully became a PlayStation studio, and they're like, now we want to make bigger things. Like we don't want to be just known as like the little tech demo studio that's just packing games and doesn't really make that much money on the back end. We want to be up there with the Gorillas, the Santa Monica's, like that. We want to maybe not be in that same breath, but we want to be up there in terms of like taken seriously with them. And they said, that last year I think we talked on that they're amping up for like a big project, or like wanting to do a new big project. And now we're getting a little bit more touch on this. And like, it's always the same thing with every studio, right? Especially with studios that have multiple teams. It's like, all right, team A is working on this game, but team B is already going to start on this next project. So I'm interested to see what the studio, because they've been known as a platformer studio. So now I want to see what they want to do with Sony budget money, like AAA budget money type of thing.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna put this out here before we move into the PlayStation Quickies. Here's my prediction. I love my predictions.
Oh yeah.
They're going to bring back a franchise of Sony's, a little one called Siphon Filter from Ben Studios. That's what I'm thinking.
You don't think Blue Point or Ben would do it?
No.
Because the only reason I bring up, no, Ben's doing a new IP. Never mind, I take that back. So never mind. Yeah, Ben wouldn't do it. But you don't think Blue Point would do it?
I think Blue Point's got other things to take care of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Got other things to take care of. But I think this would be a good way to see how they handle something that's larger. Something that's more than just a technical. I mean, it's not like Siphon Filter is a great game. I love the first one. Like, it would be a good way to see how they handle a bigger franchise game, but it would not be a ton of pressure, a ton of expectation for it to do blockbusters. It would be a good kind of, let's see how you do. You know what I mean? Like, you've been able to do all these cool things. Let's see what you can do with this franchise that people love, but you're not expected to, make an Uncharted right out the gate.
Right. Yeah, I'm about to say you gotta walk before you can run.
Yep, exactly. So let's hope, because I would love to see some Siphon Filter. Derek, are you ready for them PlayStation?
Well, since, you can't get Splinter Cell in the near future. Might as well get something.
Don't even bring Splinter Cell up. Don't even bring Splinter Cell up. They're talking about Beyond Good and Evil 2. I won't even give my boy Sam Fisher any love. That's why I don't like you, Ubisoft. That's why I don't like you.
Yves Guillemot.
Yeah.
You're done, son.
Yeah, go find the feather, Yves Guillemot. Go find that feather. Let's go talk about PlayStation Quickies, Derek.
So to start off, the Uncharted movie will hit Netflix on August 19th. That is tomorrow. Sony has stopped reporting PS4 shipments, putting the total at 117.2 million consoles shipped. PSN account may be required for PC ports from PlayStation games, hence Sony FAQ. PlayStation has launched an official PlayStation Games for PC page on its website. Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection for PC is still on track for 2022. Spider-Man Remastered is PlayStation Studios' second biggest PC launch behind God of War, which launched in January. Marvel's Spider-Man may have featured a multiplayer mode, according to PC files. Following that, PlayStation PC launcher referenced discovered in Marvel's Spider-Man PC files. Native PS5 Spotify app is reportedly in the cards. Future Games Show returning August 24th and will be hosted by Christopher Judge and Danielle Bisutti from God of War 2018, staying on the theme of God of War tonight. Horizon Forbidden West's Decima engine wins SIGGRAPH 2022 award. A game we have not heard of for a very long time since the PS4 days. Helldivers 2, possibly teased by Arrowhead Game Studios. I put it in the PlayStation Quickies because the first one was exclusive. Don't know if the second one will be, but, might as well put it somewhere. And the last one, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Star Wars KOTOR Knights of the Old Republic remake possibly switches developer as Embracer Group confirms change for the AAA project.
Interesting. Helldivers 2. Guys, if you've never played Helldivers 1, unforgiving game. It's a ton of fun, and
Friendly fire is always on.
Yeah, if you have a drop pod and you get under that drop pod, you did.
Yep.
You did. But it was a great game, and
Yeah.
I'd love to see a second one. It's nice to see Marvel Spider-Man getting the love that it deserves.
Yes.
You know, which means we're going to definitely go get Miles Morales coming to PC, you know, soon after that.
Yeah.
And
I think they said later this year.
Okay. I've seen so many mods for Spider-Man, like Kingpin, Stan Lee.
Yeah,
like
I saw the Stan Lee one today.
It's like crazy stuff going on. I love it. I love it.
Is.
And hopefully the remake will actually get remade. You know what I mean? Hopefully we'll see somebody grab a hold of it, you know, maybe Blue Point.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. You know, somebody, I need that game. You know.
How ironic, by the way, just thinking about it, this struck my chord. Literally, God of War and Spider-Man for both PC and PS4 launched the same year with months of each other. Because God of War came out April 2018, Spider-Man came out in 2019, and they were the two best-selling games that year. And then, fast forward four years from then, God of War launched on PC in January. Spider-Man just came out last Friday on PC, and they are the top two best-selling Sony PC ports this year. And it's like, what the heck? Like they just like to let them fight.
Yeah. Hey, we all win. All win. Oh, guys, I don't know if you're ready for these quick hits, but Derek is. He's been training all week. He's been eating his Wheaties, and he's ready to go.
Off, so I need to be ready.
Yeah. So let's hear them quick hits.
So Tencent reportedly wants to become Ubisoft's biggest shareholder. Ruh-roh. Here we go again. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 open beta dates confirmed, with PlayStation owners getting first access from September 16th through the 20th, then open to other consoles from the 22nd to 26th. Following that, an interesting choice that came out of nowhere this week. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 digital pre-orders get to play the campaign a week early. Rumor, Eidos Montreal wants to work on Deus Ex again. John Marston, voice actor, is up for working on a Red Dead Redemption remaster. Some sad news, some delays. Marvel's Midnight Suns delayed indefinitely, but is set for the fiscal year of 2023. Hogwarts Legacy delayed and will now arrive February 10th. Live-action Pac-Man movie announced with Sonic movie producer behind it. Speaking of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie release date set for December 20th, 2024. Sonic Frontiers delay has been shot down by Sega yet again. We'll see if that remains to be true. I think they want to hold out hope. You also got to wonder if they're putting him through extreme crunch, something we haven't talked about in a while, to get this game out to meet shareholders' expectations. But I hope it's, hope for the best at this one. Grand Theft Auto 5 has sold nearly 170 million units, with the franchise topping 380 million in sales. Rockstar to quote set creative benchmarks for the series for Grand Theft Auto 6. Following that, Grand Theft Auto 6 will reportedly feature single-player DLC, something we did not see in GTA 5. Take-Two confirms 8, quote, new iterations of previously released titles are in the pipeline. Capcom's Hiroyuki Kobayashi has departed the company after 27 years. Something that Zach touched on beginning of the show, Multiversus Season 1 is out now. And we got some more news. Black Adam and Stripe from Gremlins will join Multiversus Season 1. Following that, Multiversus Update Datamine uncovers dialogue for Beetlejuice, also points to the Wicked Witch of the West. And by that, I'm like, this is becoming the Fortnite of fighting games, because it is so like a weird amalgam of characters that you would never think to see in a video game, let alone a fighting game. Kirby's Dream Buffet is out now. Google is testing launching cloud games directly from search results. Weird choice. THQ Nordic teases South Park project included in one of the 43 games it has in development. New Avatar: The Last Airbender console game seemingly leaks. Speaking of mods, we talked about Spider-Man mods. Yakuza 0 mod replaces Kazuma Kiryu and Goro Majima with Halo's Master Chief and the Arbiter. Private Division Inc.'s deal with Weta Workshop for new games set in J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth. And a very interesting one, FIFA 23 Ultimate Team mode will receive Marvel FIFA Ultimate Team hero cards. Assassin's Creed Infinity reportedly has 2 settings at launch. One could be shown next month. Arcade 1UP reveals NFL Blitz Legends cabinet that features remasters of 3 franchise classics. Speaking of Fortnite, Goku, Vegeta, and Dragon Ball locations officially come to Fortnite. Overwatch 2 will have cross progression and account merging is being added to Overwatch 1. Guild Wars 2 comes to Steam next week. Xbox might be teasing Death Stranding for PC Game Pass. Disney and Marvel announce a game showcase at D23 on September 9th at 3 p.m. Central Time. Will feature Amy Hennig's ensemble Marvel game, quote-unquote, which, following that, Fantastic Four is looking even more likely to be Amy Hennig's Marvel game. Gotham Knights has officially gone gold. 2 months. This is 2 months early, so hopefully it does well. Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed releases October 18th. This is the Elphonic game that did the Predator game, and before that, the Friday the 13th game. Gamescom will feature a first look at gameplay for The Expanse, a Telltale series. Speaking of Telltale, new Tales from the Borderlands, which is actually the title of it, leaks with October 21st release date. Toys for Bob is teasing a new game, and it could be revealed soon. Probably with Gamescom next week, there'll probably be a good shot there. Limited Run Games is being acquired by Embracer Group, but wait, that's not all. Embracer Group is acquiring IP rights to the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit literary works by J.R.R. Tolkien, and I'll let Zach go on that, touch on that in a minute. Dead Island 2 release date possibly leaked on Amazon for February 3rd. Literally risen from the dead, and another game that's been in purgatory that hopefully has a date in sight. An interesting one here. Avalanche Studios was working on an Iron Man game for 2 years before canceling the project. Dead Space Remake reportedly to get new details in late September. And lastly, Nintendo was working on a controller compatible for PlayStation and Xbox.
A lot of things in there, Derek. A lot of things in there I want to touch on, but the one that I want to touch on the most, okay? I got 3 minutes to do this.
Yeah.
Embracer Group acquiring the IP rights to Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Now, this is not for the books. This is for the movie side of things, the television side of things, the theme parks, and the games.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Everything that J.R.R. Tolkien has made, Silmarillion, The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, all of these things now is owned by Embracer Group. Yeah. They can do what they want with them, and it's very interesting that how are the rights just sitting out there, okay? Right. With a new TV show happening, with all of these things going on, how is just the rights out there just where they could snatch them up? Yeah. This brings me to a thought. Is this why Embracer Group cut their ties with KOTOR Remake? Is so they can make room to do Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, so they could actually get the whole share of it.
Ooh, that's a very valid point. It's not a bad idea, and it definitely could hold merit, especially with what we talked about tonight. It's definitely a possibility. My only counterpoint would be, and like, yes, it depends on who you ask, and talking about the history of it. And like the overall like money it's made. I would argue though, Star Wars, just as an overall franchise, is more profitable or more, fan heavy than Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I agree 100%. But would you rather make one Star Wars game or make multiple Lord of the Rings games that people have wanted for a long time? Right. I don't know if you played it was Return of the King. There were several like Lord of the Rings games around the time of the movies, but there was one where you could like level up your players, and it was a ton of fun. And you also had Battle for Middle Earth, like the
strategy games.
The strategy games and all of that.
Oh, the on PS2, Lord of the Rings: The Third Age was a turn-based. It was like Final Fantasy-esque turn-based. Not turn-based strategy, but turn-based RPG, and where you had original characters set in the same timeline as the main cast, but they were off doing other missions, and it was like, yeah, it was arguably my favorite original Lord of the Rings IP because I was huge Lord of the Rings back in the day, watching the movies and whatnot. But yeah, like that's a valid point. Like multiple or one, because who knows, like what KOTOR? Because KOTOR. There's a second one, but we don't know how the first one's going to do. And apparently, from reports, it's a rough start right now. So
so it's like, okay, let's cut ties here. Let's be done with this, and let's move on to the thing that we actually own, so we can do what we want with them. We can make what we want and get all the money from it. I think when you really look at it, all of this stuff kind of like lining up, it makes way more sense. And then being able to not only have the gaming rights, but they also have the movie and the TV and theme park. You've seen a lot of things, Nintendo World. You've seen Harry Potter World. You've seen so many things getting theme park versions of it. That would be so easy to do. The world is already built. Everything is already there. It's easy. And that Embracer Group, they were THQ Nordic, right? And then they rebranded themselves.
Something like,
So they're collectors. Okay. They buy everything that isn't nailed down to the ground. So like
pretty much
this is a huge thing. Yeah, there was a Lord of the Rings Battlefront style game, and it was amazing. I loved that game. I absolutely loved that game. So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to see what it is. And the only Lord of the Rings games that we've gotten in recent history is Shadow of War and Shadow Middle Earth.
Shadow of Middle Earth and Shadow of War.
Mordor. Shadow of Mordor.
Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War. And then, but now we're getting this terrible looking Gollum game. That's
I wonder if they probably, the deal's already inked and everything, but I'm sure if Embracer Group can stop that from coming out, that they probably will. But Cody brings up this really interesting point, and we'll kind of wrap up the show with this one. Star Wars, because it's so saturated, likely has less royalty portions than a new era of media for Lord of the Rings series.
That is a valid point.
That is a really good point. So, and a lot of people are kind of tired of Star Wars. There's just been so much stuff out there in the recent, like we've been kind of without Lord of the Rings, and to Nate's point, Amazon is making the Rings of Power. There's a lot of bad press around it. There's a lot of things that people are not excited to see. So hopefully Embracer Group will be able to take it back to the source material, which is J.R.R. Tolkien's original vision for Middle Earth and the different ages and everything, and see it the way it should be. So that's hopefully where we'll be. But guys, there's a ton of gaming. There's a ton of gaming and gaming news and all of these things that are coming down the pipe. And we hope that you stick around for more Nerd Cave news each and every week on Thursdays, 7 p.m. Central Time. Make sure to follow us here over on twitch.tv/Nerd Cave Network, or go watch us over on YouTube and listen to us on podcast services around the globe. It's all around, whatever podcast service you want. Fancy Bottom Satchel Pants, I enjoyed it tonight, all as always. Crushed it.
Enjoyed it as well.
So, all right, guys. Well, this has been Zach.
And Fancy Bottom Satchel Pants.
Y'all have a blessed week. Bye.